Good evening, all. Welcome to 21st program of Maitriji Vache. We will just start within 1 minute. Once again, welcome to all who are present today for this webinar on New Era Career Guidance Series presented by Maitriji Vache Mumbai in association with Global Association for Corporate Services School of Excellence in association with Jan Seva Samiti Vele Parle. Today we have my dear friend Abhijit Vaidya, Senior Solutions Architect, Amazon USA, who is going to talk on the subject of changing dynamics in technology careers, new opportunities, and new roles. Before we start, I will like to give you some suggestions. Please do not try to unmute your microphones. We have kept everybody on mute so that we can have very sharp listening of entire program. Please switch off your camera in case you are facing any problem for better reception. For this particular program, speaker has advised that you can ask your questions on chat section even during the course of the presentation. After every session or every section, he will give some of these answers. And finally, we have a separate question and answer session at the end of this particular webinar. We are making available recording of this session on YouTube channel of GSS. Please do take advantage of that in case you have missed any of our last episodes. This session will run from 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. In case it gets interrupted in between due to any technical reason, please join the meeting again. I request all of you to please follow us on Facebook page of Maitriji Vache. We have a Facebook page of Jan Seva Samiti also. And of course, as I told you, you can download, you can see all these videos on GSS YouTube channel. We normally put it on our WhatsApp group also. So you can find it very easy to reach out to GSS YouTube channel. Till now, as part of New Era Career Series, we have handled various subjects as far as different careers are concerned. The entire intention of this series was to look into different careers in terms of our regular choices. So we have covered things from astronomy, astrophysics to career in parenting, career in basic science, careers in law. We have session on financial management. In next couple of weeks, we are going to have sessions on careers in classical music, then careers in technical publications, and careers in professional photography. We are trying to bring some of the stalwarts from industry who have really taken good path till now and been successful taking into different career paths. Till now, these were the great speakers who help us for all these webinars. We are really thankful to them. Our last session was conducted by Mr. Nitin Bawankoe, who is ex-Google Chief India and then current Star TV Chief in India. Next few sessions, I'll just take this opportunity. Next Sunday, we have Dr. Narendra Kane, who is Principal Bajaj Institute of Technology, who will be talking on dealing with psychology of students, ways and counseling and tackling. Then on 20th June, we have Miss Bhagyashree Panchal. She will be talking about careers in classical music. She's a very well-known personality in the field of classical music, and she's daughter of Mr. Bimrao Panchal. He is very well known as Ghazal Nawaz. Then we have Miss Swati Mehershi, Executive Editor, Applied Sciences, Engineering, Material Science, Energy and Water, Springer Nature, Switzerland. She is going to talk on careers in technical publications. Then we have a great photographer, Mr. Praveen Talan, who will talk us on careers in professional photography. With this, I hand over to Mr. Atul Kinikar for our traditional prayer. Over to you, Atul.
Thank you, Ava Sahib. And as our culture, we start our every event with Prasadam. So I'll start with Prasadam. Aata Vishwatmake Devi Yene Vakyatne Doshave Doshoni Mazadyave Pasayadana Je Kalachi Vyankati Sando Taya Satkarmi Rativadho Bhuta Paraspare Pado Maitra Jiva Duritache Timirza Vishwaswadharma Surye Paho Zoje Vanchita Totela Praniza Varshat Sakal Mandali Ishwar Nishthanchi Mandiyari Anavarat Bhumandali Bhet Tuta Sala Kalpatarunche Arava Chetana Chintamani Chega Bolate Je Arava Piyusha Chandrameje Alanchana Martanda Je Tapahina Te Sarvani Sada Sajjana Soyare Ho Kimbahuna Sarvasukhi Purna Ho Tinido Bhajiso Adi Puruki Akhandita Ani Granthopajiye Visheshi Lokiye Drushta Drushta Vijaye Oave Ethamane Vishveshwara Aho Dan Pasao Yene Bari Jnana Deo Sukhiya 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 Dhanyavad. Now over to Prashant sir.
Thanks Atul. So welcome once again all of you. And it's a great honor to introduce our today's speaker, Shri Abhijit Vaidya. Shri Abhijit Vaidya has been part of technology sector for more than 23 years. In current role, Mr. Abhijit is working as Senior Solution Architect with Amazon USA. Prior to the Amazon role, he was working with IT service companies like Accenture, Tech Mahindra, TCS, and has been part of many transformation initiatives with different customers in USA. So we welcome Mr. Abhijit Vaidya, and he's going to talk to us today on the various opportunities in the industry. So Abhijit sir, welcome, and over to you now. One more announcement which we would like to make here is Mr. Abhijit Vaidya is going to talk and pause in between. So if you have any queries on a particular slide, on a particular topic, please feel free to raise those queries rather than waiting till the end, so that we can address those queries then and there only. Thank you very much. And over to you, Abhijit sir.
Thank you. And I hope you guys can hear me.
Yeah, it's loud and clear.
Okay, thank you. So thanks to Maitra Jivanche team and my dear friend Basu for giving me this opportunity to present some of my thoughts and some of my kind of experience based findings here. And I want to keep this conversation as interactive as possible. Due to just the number of people involved, we have to use like a chat feature. So again, as Prashant sir indicated, you can post your questions. As soon as you have those questions, don't wait till the end. And I'm gonna pause and kind of ask for those questions in between. So that would keep this session more interactive, more relevant. And again, once I complete, in the end also, we will keep some time for this, for question and answer. So thanks again for the Maitri Jivanche team for this opportunity. And I will kind of start with my session. Let me share my screen. I hope you guys can see my screen.
Yeah, we can see. We can see this.
Okay. All right. So the topic that I wanted to select was changing dynamics in technology career. I specifically avoided the word IT career, right? And I'll come to that. And want to discuss like a new opportunities and new roles. So when we talk about the new opportunities, that means there are some existing opportunities, and I will kind of touch upon what's kind of, when somebody says I'm in IT, what typically and particularly in India, what does it mean to be in IT, where majority of the kind of IT folks fit into that category, with some or many exceptions again, and how the new opportunities are coming up. So the new opportunities are generated when there is a change in the technology. There is kind of a disruption that's coming into the industry, and while it affects some of the existing roles, existing jobs, it does create opportunities in other areas. So it is important to be aware of what's happening around us and what may come, what may become kind of the new opportunity sets, I would say, and how you can basically take the advantage of those opportunities, or how you can mold yourself to be a better fit for those opportunities. So that's how I want to take it. Whatever I indicate here, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. So I just want to start with some of the disruptive technology trends. And the disruption part is important here because um, a typical industry can work for 50, 80, 100 years without any significant change in the fundamentals of that industry. And people get comfortable with that. They know what exactly needs to be done. A certain job profile, job roles are kind of set around that, and something new comes in. And then some smart people are able to utilize those new things to disrupt that existing flow, and then that industry can change, and that change is somewhere basically majority of the new opportunities are created. So I want to quickly go over some of these trends in the current world, something which is either at the early stages of the development, or it is not like a fully mature, and some of the things are very new and we really don't know where they are going to go, but we know for sure that they are the trends which we need to watch out for. So one of the trend is digitalization of industry. So now and people who are related with IT or directly or indirectly must have heard these terms a lot. So I'm just going to quickly go over what each terms mean, and then kind of explain how it is impacting in the different industries. So digitalization is one of such kind of a catch-all phrase where companies are trying to create a new business model using digital technologies. And this could be related with certain like a food industry trying to get online and provide orders. New trends that we saw about some transportation industry getting impacted with Uber and Olas of the world. So it is becoming part of that digitalization process where existing businesses, then they realize that if they continue in the same way, it is not going to be easy for them to survive, and then they re-innovate themselves. Lots of large companies, including Microsoft, right? So companies like a Microsoft, IBM, some of the retail companies like a Best Buy in America, they went through this digitalization process where they realized that if they continue in their existing same business model, then they are not going to survive. One of the good example related with this was a Best Buy, which is an electronic store in US, which is the physical store. And then they were competing with Amazon on kind of each and every aspect on the electronics components. At one point, they realized that if they can't transform themselves, they are not going to survive this competition. And after a dedicated effort by their leadership, they created a sort of a new business model with selling still the electronics, but the way they are selling it different, more online presence, more support services. And then they transformed themselves, and now they are able to compete in the current marketplace. So that is one trend. That disruption and the need for this digitalization is creating many opportunities. The next one which I want to focus upon is the personalization. Now we take this in today's world personalization for granted, but that wasn't the case. Now, in some cases, the personalization has reached such a level so that each person's experience when they use a certain service online can be different. Take example of Netflix. So Netflix, depending on who you are able to create your profile. Not only you will see different content which is suited for more tests, but they have even reached a further level where for the same movie or same TV series, they will show you different images, which will be more, you might be able to more kind of relate to that, and then basically you will consume that content. So Netflix is just one of the examples, but these personalizations are impacting your banking and finance and pretty much like all the day-to-day sectors which we are interacting with. So for example, if you are any like a bank, ICICI bank customer, based on your profile, they are gonna show you certain suggestions when you log in. And normally you wouldn't even know that, but based on your data, they are able to personalize the content and make the content more relevant based on your needs. Now, there are personalization engines available. There is lots of technology available, but there is more work still to be done because it's very hard to predict what person might be looking for. And this personalization creates like a one good opportunity. The next big thing that's coming up or kind of in talks is Internet of Things. So Internet of Things is really the catchphrase for all our devices, right? All our home devices or at the industry level, some kind of sensors, they are smart. So at the consumer level, now you see like lots of fridge and televisions and like pretty much all the devices that we use at home. Like I'm not talking about mobile phone, but your cooking range, cooking devices, and your fridge. So they have become smart, right? So they are now the fridge is able to connect to internet, connect to Wi-Fi, share analysis about itself, what's going wrong, what's not going wrong, what is the temperature. So pretty much all the data can be shared, and these all devices are connected. So now the technology exists where these devices can be connected, and you can imagine that each home can have 30, 40 or even more smaller devices, and if they start talking with each other or they start communicating, that is going to generate lots of data. And how do we process that data? How do we make these devices more smart so that we we can actually utilize their features and make the better use of these features. Some of the very interesting use cases around IoT are related with the medical thing, right? So they are talking about the smart devices which are going to continuously monitor, and they are already in market, but again this field is not significantly mature. So the people with the diabetes, now they have this device attached to them, and that device is continuously monitoring the sugar level and then providing you all the feedback on your phone. That's making life easier for lots of patients who are say troubled with diabetes. And this is just the beginning. As I said, each and every thing that you use that can become smart, that can start generating data, and then it again creates lots of opportunities. At the industry level, the sensors are becoming the new kind of a front where lots of machines, they are now able to kind of self-diagnose the issues happening with those. Take example of like aeroplanes or even your manufacturing large machines, and then they are going to use certain sensors, and this data is continuously monitored, continuously kind of traced. And instead of that person able to kind of manually do things, like lots of things are going to be done automatically using this data. And this Internet of Things kind of connects into the next two part, which is related with the artificial intelligence and machine learning. So the AI used to be just one subject at like many years back, but recently in last 5 to 10 years there have been significant improvements or significant kind of milestones reached, I would say, in area of artificial intelligence and machine learning. So machine learning kind of becomes part of artificial intelligence, and we see this now in kind of everyday, right? So we have these Google, like Apple Siri, and Google has kind of a virtual assistant. Amazon has Alexa. All these are kind of our day-to-day examples of artificial intelligence in play. But in real world or at the business level, industry level, it can create kind of lots of opportunities. More smart people are required to build the models using this existing technology. So machine learning, again, good example where there are multiple kind of subcategories of that. But self-driving car is a good example of combination of AI and ML. where the car is able to, based on the sensors, car is able to figure out the next part. And the self-driving cars used to be kind of a sci-fi concept, but now it's becoming reality. Tesla already has a car which is almost self-driving car. Google is working on that. Lots of other people are working on it. Even Uber, I know, like they were working on the self-driving car. So AI and ML areas are going to touch kind of each and every aspect of our life. And all the businesses, all the industries, they will be forced to use AI and ML in their business, to support their business, to increase their business. And then again, it creates opportunity for a role. Like, not, there are right now more roles available than people available who really understand these areas. And this is a excellent opportunity for a young generation, because these are still, I would feel that they are kind of early stages of the development, and we still have not fully explored the potential of these areas. Now, one of the next thing I mean, this is becoming again catchphrase, is the cloudification. So I work with Amazon. So Amazon has a public cloud service, which is Amazon Web Services, or AWS. People who know anything or related with the technology, they would know about that. We all are using cloud now, cloud services now, without, or without us knowing it, but we know that they are related with the cloud services. So lots of customers now want to utilize the services and features supported by cloud. There are lots of advantages of using those services. And how do we migrate their existing business support applications to utilize more and more cloud services and provide certain flexibility and some, the cost benefits to customers? So that has already become the very hot area. So from the personal experience perspective or personal work perspective, that's pretty much what I do, right? So my work today is a majority mainly focused on this area, where I want to work with customer and see how they can utilize the cloud services to make their business and make their processes more efficient. This is one area, even with COVID impacting pretty much all aspects of the life, this area has been still in the constant demand. Rather, in last few months, we see more increased demand for these services, because now COVID has forced us to rethink lots of things which nobody was thinking in 2019. And kind of using certain features of public cloud can become very attractive proposition for the businesses. So this was like one of the areas, one of the few areas which became kind of more busy during this COVID crisis, rather than kind of a negative impact of that. So one area which is today relatively mature, and still there are going to be lots of opportunities in coming years to support the cloudification of existing business processes. Another topic which came into picture is a blockchain. So you guys must have, or many of us must have heard about the Bitcoin, right? So Bitcoin kind of, I would say, revolutionized, disrupted lots of things. So this is the virtual currency, and this virtual currency really is based on some of the fundamentals of the blockchain. And then what we realized is that the blockchain process, which is based on the cryptography, and then it creates a virtual ledger of like all the transactions. And what happens is that it is virtually or technically impossible to mess up with the data, because each record is connected with the previous record cryptographically, which makes it like impossible to crack it. So what happens is that it creates that kind of a trust chain. And this then become very interesting topic for the banking and finance area. Then it became very kind of interesting for the logistics area, where lots of different parties which not necessarily trust each other, and they need to have this kind of a trust mechanism. And since blockchain provides that mechanism where you know that if it's part of this ledger, then nobody has messed up with it, and you can really trust the certain details or certain transactions, again creates lots of opportunities. This is again one area which is not explored to the significant level, but all the key players or all the big players in the industry, they are supporting this. They have created packages, software which will help businesses to utilize blockchain. So IBM started a lot on that one. Now we have Amazon, Google, Microsoft, all provide in one way or another support for blockchain. This is another kind of a hot topic now. And as I said, this is again at the very early stage, not very mature. So these are certain kind of the key trends. Along with these key trends, one of the things which is happening kind of in last 5 or 10 years is the creation of the startup culture, right? So startup is like a small company, a few people, a few friends come together. They have some great idea in mind about a certain product, and then they start that company. This has created so many innovations in last 10 years, 15 years in America. And in India, in last 5 years or so, this culture has really picked up. So people are coming up with the new business ideas, and then they are implementing it. And for all these things, one of the key enabler has been the public cloud. So public clouds like Amazon, Microsoft, Google, these are the 3 top names in the public cloud. And there are some of the other names also, which are like IBM and Alibaba, and some of the other niche companies providing these cloud services. So what cloud has allowed is to, for the small companies, like if today I have an idea and I want to implement it, before cloud, it was next to, I wouldn't say impossible, it was very hard to get the right machines, right servers available, and the initial cost was very significant. So if I just wanted to implement something, see how it works, if it works, great, I can expand it. If it doesn't work, then you know what, I should be able to shut it down without costing me a fortune or costing me of my future life savings. That wasn't possible before. So that innovation process was very much restricted. What public cloud allowed is to innovate very quickly. And the new again term is like a quick failure, right? So fail fast. Now you would see in the corporate world, and particularly on the technology sector, people talking about like a failing fast. So if you fail fast, that means you are not costing too much. You suddenly you have one idea, and then you implemented that idea using features of cloud, and you realize that it's becoming like a new hot thing, and then you are able to expand onto it. If it doesn't go that route, then you are able to very kind of pivot to something else without spending too much of a money. And that has allowed lots of companies to create these like a new ideas. So startup culture has created some of the amazing stuff that we see today. If you take example of like Uber and Lyft or Ola, those companies would not have been possible like to kind of build those kind of companies without support of the cloud. They would have very hard time to scale at the global level, kind of build their concepts. So now it's becoming really easier. We have lots of services right now which are content driven, like a streaming services. And even if I'm kind of sitting at my home and I want to create a content, and then I want to sell it and kind of share it, it is now possible to do that. It was not possible, say 15 years back, without support of all the infrastructure from the cloud perspective. So these are some of the trends which are disruptive trends. They are impacting the existing industries. They are forcing the businesses to rethink their existing processes, and they are generating new opportunities for the people who can take advantage of those opportunities. So before I get to the next slide, I just want to check if there are any questions on this slide.
Abhijit, we don't have, we can go ahead.
Okay, thank you. All right. So as I said earlier, right, so I just want to start quickly upon the traditional career path, right? So the IT services. So when we say the IT guy, IT person, right? So in sort of like my generation at the beginning of our careers, this was the path that was taken by many of us. So a generation of engineers effectively became the IT people. So the career path started very much like you be an engineer, and it didn't matter at one point like what branch of engineering it is. You do some training and then you get at the entry level in a role. After a few years, you become a team lead. Again, you eventually become a project manager. You become senior project manager, and then you get into the leadership role. Like, so when you leadership role, you're talking about like VPs and directors and senior directors, and some people even getting even higher on the corporate ladder. But most of the people I know, they have followed this path. So, and there is a good chance that like the people who who are working in the large companies like Infosys, Wipros, and Accentures, mostly they have kind of gone through the very similar path. So for I would say like my generation, this path created significant opportunities and lots of engineers who decided to take this path. So I know lots of my friends who who did their mechanical engineering. They started working in the mechanical industry, and after working there maybe 2 to 3 years, they realized that this is still a much better opportunity, and then they switched their career paths and got into the IT services. So what are some of the key characteristics of this path, right? So one thing is this is a well-established path and it is gonna be here. So please don't take me wrong. There is nothing wrong with this. There is nothing wrong with this path. This is still a good path. It's a well-established path. You precisely know where you're gonna go, right? And so some of the characteristics of this particular traditional path, it's well-established, good starting salaries. Recently, the salary gap between other industries and IT's industries, it's kind of a bridging very well. But at one point, there was a significant pay scale gap, right? Maybe 15 years back or even before that. So that actually attracted lots of talent to the IT services career, right? So the good starting salaries. Overall, if you see like a lack of work-life balance, right? So these roles come up with certain requirements, and we see the people working off hours, starting very early, working very late. It definitely disrupted the classic work-life balance that we saw in the the previous generation or some of the other industries. The abroad travel opportunities, it gave the opportunities to lots of people to, for work reason, to travel abroad. Even personally for me, this industry provided me those opportunities to go abroad. It used to be a dream at one point. It became a reality because of this industry. Again, the similar pattern probably will exist going forward also. Of course, there is going to be some COVID related impacts where people now realize that most of the folks are able to do their work remotely, and you don't have to be physically present in a given location, right? So how COVID would impact certain opportunities, that's still to be seen, but yeah, there will be some impact. But one of the also another characteristics of this industry is more focus on keep things running, right? So maintain the status quo. If you have certain application system running, you are supporting the business, how do you keep it stable? How do you make sure that the the incremental updates of the certain features or facilities are provided. And that resulted in, I would say, cautious innovations. So I know like lots of people would challenge me on my cautious innovation statement, but the innovation was never to disrupt something, right? So innovation was really to do the same thing in a better way, which is again, it's a right thing to do. You should always innovate, but it was, as I mentioned, the cautious innovation. And the more focus was, or more focus still is, to keep things running as it is, or kind of keep things running in a stable way. So end of the day, you support your customer, support your business in the right way. This path, so I know there were some of the questions around, or there would be some questions around what's next 10 years, right? So are there going to be opportunities in this area? The answer is absolute yes. So there are opportunities in this area. While we have all the companies, lots of companies are also, the IT services companies are trying to re-innovate themselves, right? As a part of the changing trends. There are going to be opportunities where you can still follow this path. One of the another characteristics is I have seen is that even if it's a technology career, people tend to sort of move away from the core technology, and at a certain level, say project manager or senior project manager, your focus more becomes the management, right? So it becomes the management, people management focus, the money management focus than the technology focus. And that also creates this scenario that all the senior people are focused on the like being a manager, again, right thing to do for those roles. And then the less focus is on the technology itself or technology innovation itself, right? Depending on your likings, definitely you can consider this path. There are going to be lots of people available who can guide you through this the process. And depending on your likings and areas of passion, you can pick and choose certain areas. This is the known path. It is definitely going to be there, right? So keep that in mind, that this is not going away. But the part which I want to discuss more is about the new roles and opportunities.
Abhijit, we have one question from Prashant. He says these technology trends, how long we can expect life cycle of these trends? Next 5 years, 10 years, as every industry has some peaks before they enter into saturation. So what is your take on that?
Correct. Yeah. So the first thing is that it's very hard to predict the future. I think in last week's meeting also, I think Mr. Nitin, he also probably mentioned the same thing. It's very hard to predict the future. But by looking at where industry is going and the potential that these trends provide, I expect these trends to grow over the next decade. Like what happens after this decade? Like, so between year 2020 to 2030, there is going to be growth in all these areas, because all these areas are at the early adoption stages. Lots of industries still have not adopted these things, and the industries, as I said, eventually will be forced to adopt these things. There will be certain new ideas would come up, kind of the offshoot of the existing technology would become more popular. But based on the trends I see, these technology trends are going to be providing opportunities at least for a decade. What happens after a decade, honestly, I wouldn't be able to comment on that. Some of these things will continue and some new things will come up, that's for sure. In the last 5 years, we have been kind of talking about these things, but they were very early, or like I would say premature stages. But now with the support of the cloud and support of some of the new compute powers, these are becoming more of a realities, right? So you can say that there are physical cars running on the street right now, like the Tesla cars are running, which take huge advantage of the IoT and AI and ML. And within next few years, that's definitely gonna grow. So to answer your question, these trends are definitely gonna be there and generating new opportunities for a decade, possibly beyond that, but minimum at least this decade for sure.
Okay, thanks for that, Abhijit. But just one question from my side. Do you think current pandemic, COVID, will affect the traffic from India to all those Zazi destinations, which has which were popped up in last say couple of decades? Do you think there will be a hard stop on those transactions or import of engineers?
Uh, so that's, as I said, like a to be seen, right? Because this COVID thing came up so fast. Nobody predicted that. We in when we talk with the friends, we always joke that last 5 years we have been seeing so many presentations in the corporate world which focused on 2020, right? Like what this is going to be our plan for 2020. We are going to reach this level by 2020, and none of those talked about COVID, right? So it's very hard to imagine. This is definitely going to have some impacts across like all the industries, and the remote work opportunities are gonna create more different kind of roles. That's possible. So at this point we just need to be cautious and kind of be ready to see how that industry goes. People are already working towards kind of a boundary-less working environment, and it doesn't matter where you are working from. And if that happens, then you physically don't need to be going to different place to do your work. So yes, it is absolutely possible. But again, as I said, that doesn't change the role, right? So the role itself will remain there. So if we talk here like the data scientist will be still required. The only thing that would change is where you are working from. So you could be working from India, you could be working from US, or you could be sitting in some another completely different location and basically doing the same job.
Great. So I think connecting the same dots, we have a question from a very dear friend Sanjay Kulkarni. He says that Trump is saying on cancelling H1B visas. So what is your opinion?
So it kind of goes beyond my opinion, right? So Trump is a kind of a unique kind of a leader. He has a different look at like lots of things. And we also need to realize that just because US president says something, it takes a lot to change rules around that. So canceling the whole H1 itself, that would need to go through Congress and Congress and Senate, and lots of approvals are required. So one is what's called like an election talk. So there is a chance that this is more of a that. But again, the bottom line is that he is getting lots of support for cancellation of those work permits, particularly after COVID, when certain people are losing jobs, and then they can see that the H1 is utilized to bring in sort of like a competition for them. So it's unlikely that this will be cancelled, but whether it will become more stringent, more strict, that is absolutely possible. And to be honest, like that started even before Trump came into power. Even during the previous administration with Barack Obama, those requirements on H1 became very stringent, and now they are even kind of a more stricter. So, but they are still kind of based on the rules. So one thing, whatever Trump says now, you can take it with sort of like a grain of salt in a way, because the elections are coming up in November, and lots of things again could be linked with the pre-election talk. And then there are certain aspects of the reality into that. I don't think it is going to be exactly black and white. Yes, there will be more restrictions, but I don't see the program itself getting cancelled, because companies have more to lose by cancelling the program rather than keeping it.
Great. So there are some general industry-based questions, which I feel we will take it at the end of the session.
Okay.
So we can continue with your presentation. There are questions on opportunities for shifting bases from China, and then work from home and all. So
yeah,
I think
we'll take it, right? So, and again, I may not be covering like 100% of the opportunities. Certain things which I don't deal with, for example, the manufacturing in China, yes, there could be some opportunities there, which I may not be aware, and probably there are more expert people even on this call and who can jump in and provide those details, and I'll be happy to have that conversation.
So please continue.
Yeah, so the new roles and opportunities, I kind of categorize those into 2 or 3 types here. So one which we definitely need engineering background, right? Another one which I want to touch upon is that even if you don't have the engineering background, you can be part of the technology and how that can be. And then another thing is more on the startup culture. So the engineering background, the opportunities are cloud specialists. So cloud specialist, which I mentioned earlier, that the cloud has provided some of the ways or some of the services in such a way which was not possible before. It has provided a way to get the capacity on demand, get certain services on demand, use it only when you need it, don't use it if it's not required, which was not absolutely possible before cloud. Now, all customers want to take kind of utilize these features. Take example of a company like TurboTax, which is very popular in US for your tax filing. Those guys are normally busy during the tax season, and the rest of the time they are like heavily underutilized. So now they are able to basically say, you know what, like only during the 3 months where the tax processing is done, I'm gonna use more infrastructure, more servers, and rest like 9 months, I'm gonna scale down. The money savings they are achieving by doing that, it is enormous, right? And then when people or businesses see these kind of trends and that ability to be flexible and not commit to any kind of the capital expenses, becomes such suddenly very interesting proposition. Now, how do you do that? It is not exactly a simple process. You need lots of expertise for that, and you can build those expertise, or you can focus on building those expertise. But this is one area, again, in next many years, we will need people who really understand the cloud very well, and then able to help customer to move to cloud. As I mentioned, my current role is very close to, or I would say it's exactly the same role, that's what I do most of my time, right? The another area, which is the cyber security specialist, right? So right now everything is running on web. Lots of bad things are happening. People and hackers, they are able to take advantage of people's lack of knowledge or lack of certain basic fundamentals, what called as like a social engineering, right? So you can get an email and you click on in the link, and then suddenly you give your ID and password of bank to somebody else, right? That's just one of the example, but there are lots of ways where the cyber security becomes or cyber security has become very important. In last year, there have been significant leaks of the sensitive information in US, right? So one of the firm which keeps track of all your credits, I think Experian, that company left certain sensitive files like kind of open, sort of our available access was available, and then their data was leaked, and then they become like a big issue, right? All sensitive information was kind of stolen. So cybersecurity has become a area of specialty. If you come from that background, or if you have kind of interest in getting deep into the inner workings of the computers and where things can be broken and how do we fix that, and so previously it used to be network security and your infrastructure security, but now this has become a specialized area. Again, it has to be driven by your passion. Just because say cyber security experts make more money and you really are not you don't have much passion for that deep level of technology, you may not actually do well in this. But if you are really passionate, then about the technology and kind of, as I say, going deep in the technology, this is one area to go. Now, certain non-engineering backgrounds, and again, these are not reserved for non-engineers. Of course, if you have the engineering background, you can get into these. But one of the very kind of specialized area become the UX, like that's a user experience specialist. So user experience, and just to be clear, don't mix it up with a web page design. User experience is a wide area where they can understand from the consumer perspective or from the user perspective that end-to-end interaction, and what's the user experience from at a very kind of touch points, and how they can still make that user experience better. And lots of things we take it for granted, but there is lots of research and lots of thought process involved, and it would involve some like psychology, human psychology, and some kind of artistic things. So I worked with one of the kind of UX specialists, and she came from arts background. I mean, she was masters in art, and then at one point she decided to during her college like take some computer related courses, and then she realized that yes, this is one of the areas. And then eventually she kind of molded herself in kind of user experience specialist. One very hot area, if you you don't have engineering background, but if you have a certain vision or kind of that artistic view of looking at certain things, and then you can utilize that, or you can change that focus on making that user experience better. A nice web page design is just part of that. User interface specialist is sort of like the subset of that user experience, right? And then you can be expert in that. Lots of companies are looking for the UX specialist, and trust me, just because I personally know programming very well doesn't make me a good UX specialist, right? It needs some unique skills, and not necessarily you have to have the engineering background for that. Another area which has become like a very popular is the data scientist area. So the data scientist, and there is a data analyst, there is some difference in those. So the data scientist is, you can imagine now, right? So earlier different opportunities, I did mention about, huge amount of data is coming over, right? So lots of data is coming, and you need some people who really analyze that data, understand that data, right? So those are the data analysts. So you can imagine like all the data that Facebook is generating, right? Or YouTube is generating, or like all these social platforms are generating. It's enormous. So somebody is required to analyze the data and make some sense out of it. Those are the data analyst people. Data scientist people kind of go beyond that, and they want to create certain models. So these people will use data, use certain features of machine learning, use certain features of artificial intelligence, and then they create new models. So the new model could be for predictive model, like take example of insurance industry, where they need to predict lots of things, and then these data scientists will be able to create those models, test those models. And that's the job, which is probably the most popular job right now. Both data analyst and data scientists, like they don't need engineering background. If you're somebody who is extremely good in mathematics, extremely good in physics, you understand the modeling concepts, you can do amazing in these areas. Finance sector, there is a role called, like they called quants, right? So they need people who are able to analyze all the financial data and make sense out of it and create certain models for that. And those models could be used by the stock trading applications. Huge area, huge opportunity, and again, don't need engineering background for that. Product development is another area where without the specific engineering background, you can become effectively a good product development manager, or be part of that product development process. Want to touch upon the startup culture, which is startup is like a small companies, right? So I have some idea about building a new mobile game, right? Used to be like Angry Birds and then Candy Crush, and then I'll start my business very small. Few of my friends, I will build a game, people like it, and then I will build more business on top of it, and then I will create my company. So now it is very easily possible, and particularly for a young generation who have amazing minds, I would highly kind of recommend, suggest that if you actually get some ideas, work on that, get some help, get some support, and work on those ideas. And even the big companies like Amazon and Google, they are looking for more people who have such ideas, and then they actually try to do something. Even if you fail implementing those ideas, that's not end of the world, right? So that's absolutely fine at you're at early stages of your career. And then these big companies are looking for people who are able to kind of implement those ideas and basically create like a next big things. Some of these, there are probably more roles, like these are some of the opportunities which are related with the new trends I could think of. As somebody mentioned earlier, there could be more opportunities where businesses are shifting from China to some other locations, and that would create lots of opportunities. These are probably more in context of logistics. I'm not like expert in that area, but again, keep eye on these opportunities, and again, feel free to reach out to me in case even after this session. So I have a LinkedIn profile, and you can connect me on the LinkedIn. So those are certain new opportunities. And one thing, like I recently, like this week only, I got this image from CNBC, right? So entry-level jobs, like a sample salary, this is US data, and then they collected this data for 2020, right? And if you see here, some of the jobs that we talked about, right? So data scientist, then data engineer, and the UX designer. So these are the roles which are basically bringing in kind of a more money or more salaries at the entry level. The reason for those is the same, that not too many people are specialized in that, and then you can decide to focus on a certain area and then be expert in those areas, and then basically take the benefits of these high demand and high growth from the salary perspective and from the career perspective. So one thing is always like what's next, right? What else is happening? So yes, this covers probably a decade, but what else could be happening? One example I could think of like is quantum computing, and this is example I selected because it does talk about where the quantum computing is today relative to some of the early inventions we had, and what happens when there's potential. We just know that there is possibly a potential, but we really don't know where it is going. So the quantum computing, in short, it basically is a new way of storing certain information, and then this will allow computers to do calculation at such a kind of speeds which are not possible even for today's supercomputers, right? So the quantum computing, Google, I think few months back, announced that they are able to use it to solve some mathematical problem, which was considered like an impossible to solve with the existing computing or compute power. They were able to solve that using quantum computers. And then the CEO or some of the people who are supporting that, they said that this is it's kind of equivalent of when the Wright brothers, when they flew the aeroplane first time ever, right? So when they did that, they just proved that it is possible to fly this object, right? There was nothing more than that, right? And then whole industry came out of it, the aeroplanes, right? So this is at the extremely early stage. I don't think we are gonna be able to do anything specific today to do anything in quantum computing, but this is something which is the next big unknown. And it is possible that after 15 years, this quantum computing will be producing more job opportunities than anything else happening today. So the question comes up is that then how do you prepare yourself for those unknowns? And that preparation really comes from not looking into something very specific, but then following certain fundamentals, certain principles. And you might have heard about these principles in different one way or another. I wanna kind of use Amazon's concept of the leadership principles here. So when I joined Amazon, I came across these leadership principles. There are 14 leadership principles. You can read a lot about those principles on internet. But the idea is that if you follow these principles throughout your career, you would be able to adopt, you would be still able to make progress. And anything new is thrown at you, you should be able to kind of handle it properly. Some of these principles are kind of obvious, right? Bias for action, earn trust. Very important things in the corporate world are also even in the personal life. One of the things which I feel most important is probably learn and be curious, right? Irrespective of what career of, what stage of career in your life or what stage of life you are in, you are a student, you are just a new, like a fresh worker, you are experienced worker, or you are about to retire, you should never be kind of stopping to be curious. You should be always curious about something, right? If you are curious about something, you will learn more about that, and that would keep you fresh, that would keep you going, and that would let you think about like lots of things in a different way. Some of these principles, I wish, you know, I can go over each and every principle in details, but as I said, like by looking at the time, I just want to mention that for the people who are just kind of getting into the colleges, remember this principle, which is learn and be curious. Also remember the principle, which is dive deep, right? So anything that you are passionate about, don't just scratch the surface, do a real deep dive, understand the or kind of understand the depths of your favorite field to a level where, you know, nobody else has reached possibly, and that would give you enormous benefit in your career path. Today's world, or rather, there used to be like a terms like a jack of all, and it was seen as something like the person who really doesn't know much about anything. But in today's world, jack of all is becoming a term where you are expected to be jack of all, but master of at least one, right? So jack of all, master of none used to be the phrase. So in today's world, the most popular one, or the what people are looking for, is jack of all, where you know a lot about or know decent about like lots of things, but then you are master of at least one of the thing, right? And that's whatever one of the thing is would be driven by your passion. So be curious, be learning all the time, and then all the unknowns. So if quantum computing throws something unknown at us after 15 years, we will be able to handle that. We will be able to prepare for that. We would be able to take advantage of the opportunities which are generated at certain stage of your career, and then still, you know, be successful. So that's pretty much it at the high level from my side, and I just want to open up for any questions.
Yeah, I think we have a number of questions in the chat box. So let's take one by one. So one question which was missed earlier, and that was coming from Pallavi. Can you please tell the top 5 cloud providers and why do you think that they are the top one?
Okay, so the top 5, so the top 3, right? So people who follow the Gartner, who are kind of, they do the analysis of all the IT related products. So the top one right now is Amazon. So Amazon is the number 1 right now on the cloud infrastructure services. Number 2 is Microsoft. Number 3 is Google. So those top 3 cover people who know the Gartner Magic Quadrant. If you haven't seen that, just Google on it, the Gartner Magic Quadrant, and then you will kind of see that. So those are the 3 leaders as of today. Amazon is the one who pioneered this cloud concept, right? So Amazon got almost like a 3 years of a lead over all other players. And when Google and Microsoft, they saw the potential of that, and then they jumped into that. The other, there are some niche players, which is Alibaba, which is China-based, I think, company. They are big in Asia. They are able to replicate certain success that Amazon has in US and Europe and some of the other parts. IBM also has its own cloud. Plus, there are lots of other companies. But if you include Alibaba and IBM, I think that covers the top 5. But again, the majority of the opportunities you will see they are related with the top 3, which is AWS, Amazon, and Google Cloud.
Okay, Abhijit, there is one question from Mr. Jayant Nangre. Sorry, Jayant Nagrare. What are the new industries expected to shift to India as the anti-China sentiments are very strong now?
So that's one area which I would not call it like my area of expertise. But anti-China sentiments are there today, and there could be some immediate kind of reactions to that. One of the large focus of China was the manufacturing, right? So in 70s and 80s, lots of manufacturing was moved to China from US. So it is possible that those manufacturing jobs would move to India or some of the other Asian countries. But beyond that, I mean, honestly, I don't have enough to comment on that. Rather, I would request if anybody on this call has some comments on that, please, feel free to jump in. So I know like there could be some reaction to that.
Yeah, I can help you a little bit. I think we need to wait and watch, to be very frank, because there's a lot of dynamics involved in that. It's not that easy to move or shift the manufacturing basis as is as that. And to be very frank, maybe next couple of months, there are talks going on, but there is not really hard work which is going into shifting those bases. We need to be patient on that particular front. Dharmesh sir, can you just take next question?
Yeah, so this particular question is further to probably the visas and other thing which we talked about in view of Mr. Trump's thinking. Tanvi wants to know which are the other countries where one can find the opportunities.
Yeah, so see, the thing is that right now, like pretty much like all the countries, they are kind of rethinking their immigration policies. Canada is still a good option, and there might be some people from Canada on this call. So Canada has become a destination. Even I know lots of people personally who spend probably like 10 years in US, and this H1 process was not really helping them in any way. And then they decided to switch to Canada, switch in the sense migrate or move to Canada. So Canada is definitely one option where there could be still good opportunities. Beyond that, like European countries, Australia. But just keep in mind that all these countries are rethinking their immigration policies, and we just need to be kind of aware of that. So Australia also, I think they changed or updated their immigration policy recently. So how it would go, it would be really driven by the political climate and what people would think. So immediately post-COVID, there might be some impact because in US, it has created lots of unemployment. That's possible across other parts of the world also. Every week there are like more unemployment numbers coming up or in the increasing count. And even if they are not in the high-tech field, people would still have that sort of like a resentment feeling that the non-citizens of the country are getting jobs and we are not getting the jobs. So it's possible that some political figures will take advantage of that situation, try to push their agendas. But again, it would be more like a wait and watch. Once I think we get some vaccine and medicine and things are kind of back to normal, like a pre-COVID, that's the time when we need to watch out. but meanwhile, lots of things happen, and particularly you see in some of the televisions in India, keep it always with a grain of salt, right? So I have experienced this firsthand, that a certain thing happening in the US, it's not that serious when I'm kind of, when I see it from US. But then it is, there is lots of masala added to that and shown in TVs in India. And then I kind of getting calls from, my parents asking about that. So not everything is that extreme or that drastic. So if you are seeing certain news in certain channel, then just keep it with grain of salt, or take it with grain of salt. But as I said, we have to wait and watch how the immigration policies will evolve. But strictly from opportunity side, Canada, Europe, and Australia would be the good option. There is always a Gulf connection where some of the Dubais and some of the other parts of those can provide some good opportunities. So I think it depends on, at one point, your personal choice and what you want to do in your career.
Great. So there's another question from I think Raja Bhau. What will be the level of wavelengths, controls, alarms surrounding the human being in near future, and what will affect on physical emotions well-being?
Yeah, I'm sorry, but I'm no expert in this area to answer that question. And again, I honestly don't have any comment on that. So what would be the
No worries,
impact on impact on human emotions and all that? I'm sorry. I mean, if you ask me to take your application to cloud, I can help you on that one.
Sure. So,
I mean, if you don't mind, can you just stop sharing your screen so that we can see you?
Yeah, sure. Okay.
Yes.
yeah, so
The
there's
next
a
question is by
from Vijay.
Go ahead, Prashant.
Yeah, there's a question from Vijay. He wants to know what are the opportunities for software tester in AI and machine learning, and what will be the next step to grab these opportunities?
Okay, so yes, so the quality is one of the field, and whenever we do new things, there are going to be the opportunities, right? So when somebody is building the model, they need to test it. So you can evaluate those opportunities, but again, you need to understand the technology very well. Some of the early, or as I said, like the typical IT services roles, the tester, they expect like you don't know much about that and still you can just follow certain process and test it. That may not be applicable when we are talking about these testings related with the AI and ML. So your role would be, in that case, would change to really understand that area or that technology more. But again, the testing itself is evolving. I did not touch upon that, but there is so much automation happening in the testing area that you are able to pretty much do everything without human intervention, and that itself can be a good area. So there is what people call the manual testing, and then the fully automated testing. So if you even switch to the fully automated testing and able to utilize certain new open source tools and features, that is still extremely good career option.
I think there's one question from our dear friend Dr. Sachin Kulkarni from Pune. I am Ayurvedic doctor and not IT background, so maybe odd man out for this meeting. I have simple question that are Zoom meetings safe as security is a concern?
So so now whenever we talk about the personal data security, you need to kind of think broader, saying the kind of data we proactively publishing on Facebook itself, right, or other social media platform. You are opening up, you in the sense not personally, but people are opening up their life, on Facebook, and then they are not comfortable when somebody says Zoom is not safe. So that doesn't go hand in hand, right? So in today's world, it is extremely difficult to isolate yourself, but you need to be cautious on what data you are sharing, who is using that data, how that data is used. And there was kind of a news that like Zoom is a Chinese company and they are stealing your data, which is not the case. A good friend of mine, he his company basically supports Zoom, and when they say it's a US based company, he personally knows the CEO of that company. But this was probably a kind of a conspiracy theory supported by some of the competitors. It's possible. Does it mean like they are 100% saints and nice people? No, they are gonna collect your data. In today's world, you need to remember that you are not a consumer. If you are getting something for free, then you are a product, right? You are watching YouTube on for free. You are using Zoom for free. You are using lots of things for free. That basically that means you are a product and your data is sold to somebody else. There are pros and cons of that, right? So the pros means whenever you next time you go to YouTube, you see your favorite videos again and again, or related videos, right? I connect to YouTube and then it shows me videos of kind of the music that I like. And when you do that, you would see different videos. You might see martial art, Bruce Lee videos. So that's kind of driven by pretty much all the data that you are sharing. There are possibilities that it could be used in a bad way. And the governments all across the world are trying to figure these things out. This is again a very new thing. Not everybody understands it. So whether Zoom is safe or not, yeah, it is encrypted, it is safe. Nobody, if it's a corporate level thing, people can't just join your bridge. But Zoom might collect some information about the usage and they might decide to use it in a certain way. But communication wise, I don't think so, right? So if your family is meeting on a Zoom in the COVID, I don't think Zoom is going to be able to utilize that information to change the world, right? I mean, it's a personal level thing. So it's hard to pinpoint on that, but just realize that we are sharing so much data already. And which part of your data is already like not known to the world, right? You deploy install some new application on your phone and it asks you for your media file permission, your photo permission, your contact permission. Blindly we say yes, 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 and then go ahead without thinking about it. So that's where we are right now. I expect things will change. People will become more sensitive about their personal data, but so far I don't see that's happening.
There's a question from Adi, although it is not related to today's topic, but he wants to know what are the opportunities in automobile sector and what one should do after 10 to pursue the career in this sector. And the next question he's asking is, which is the highly paid job in IT and arts? So he has, I think he wants to think or take out of 3, one career, but he wants to take the decision based on the payment.
So I think I was showing that entry level career things, right? So it is really thinking about, right? So if you think talent as in context of demand and supply, you need to be just able to put yourself in kind of in demand roles. So the data scientists in my presentation, I mentioned like the data scientists are demanding way more salary than anybody else. So lots of roles. If you are related with any of the field which I recommended or which we discussed in today's session, you will be getting lots of salary, that's for sure.
Great. So there are so many questions, Vijit. One of them is, what are the opportunities for full stack web developers?
Great opportunities. Full stack web developer, where just for everybody's sake, full stack indicates you are able to build that application end to end from front end to the database. And opportunity wise, there are extremely good opportunities, and it comes in context of the cloudification part, which I mentioned earlier, right? So when you are using certain cloud features and cloud services, and then you are building your new application onto the cloud, those applications are going to utilize certain features which were not available in the past, right? So if you are a full stack developer who understands cloud very well, and you can what we call as the build cloud native application. There is a huge demand for that kind of person. But again, you need to realize that along with the core technology knowledge, which is Java and some of the database, you also need to understand more about that specific cloud. And when you combine both of those knowledges, it creates lots of opportunities. So today there are lots of opportunities, and going forward it will still continue. But with it, you need to realize that companies are moving to like a less code or no code way. So they are preferring something like what we call like a build versus buy, and they are able to buy lots of things ready made off the shelf rather than building everything from scratch. So just keep that in mind. But strictly talking about full stack developer, if you combine your skills along with some of the cloud skills, then huge demand as of today.
Supriya Desai wants to know, is an AWS certification mandatory to get a job? And which AWS services should known as a AWS solution architects?
Okay, and that's a good question. I can speak 1 hour on that topic, but let me say, so is it mandatory? The answer is no. But if you are looking for a job and you wanna effectively switch your career to use AWS, then that certification will effectively give you some broader support, and people who are hiring you will know that yes, you know something about that. So it will basically create sort of like that stamp of approval on you if you have the certification. There are multiple certifications available. So the solution architect associate is the one which I think, or I would recommend you to start with if you are focused more on the architecture part. If you come from the development background, there is a development associate certification, and you need to know about lots of services on the cloud to be called like a cloud architect. And as I mentioned, this is where that jack of all would come into picture, right? You need to be jack of many in the cloud and then master of one. So you can pick up your area of expertise. I come from the computer development background, so I like microservices and those architectures, and that's basically become my kind of super specialty within my area, right? So start with Amazon's Architect Associate certification. That would be an extremely good start. There is lots of supporting material available. Cloud Guru has a very nice course on that one. Linux Academy has a nice course, and lots of forums available. So that would be something that you should definitely consider.
Abhijit, there is a question from Adi Patil. Are there any opportunities in automobile sector? I think he's taking reference from say software industry, and what should one do after 10th standard?
Avasa, we have taken this question. If you could move to the next one, please.
Okay. So I think there's a question from Suchita. I wish to learn data science and data analytics. Which subject should I choose while pursuing computer engineering?
Okay. So there are specific subjects on these area itself, right? So the data engineering, so understanding the data and how do we process and manipulate the data. So there are subjects which are specifically related with the data. So you might learn basic about the databases, how the data is structured, how you are supposed to process the data. Lots of subjects, but again, when you think about the data analyst or data scientist, your focus is not actually building the tools, but more like using the existing tools available. So there are concepts like a data wrangling and data preparation. So you would need to learn those concepts, start using these tools. And I don't have the exact like a course name, but on the internet, as I said, like the Cloud Guru or some of these training providers, they do have trainings available focused on these areas. And I see like analytics as like one of the super specialty area, even people doing masters in that, right? So At your graduation level, you can learn some of the fundamentals and then probably do the specialization in the analytics area as a part of your postgraduate.
Abhijit Saib, there are many questions which we have, but you mentioned one thing about all these companies encouraging the youngsters to come forward and do their own programming and these companies. So is there any competition? Is there any, I mean, how do they reach to these companies as to find out what are the opportunities available?
So it would start sometimes in your college itself, right? So you are doing a project in the college, and then you can link that project with or associate that with certain company, or part of some of the internship programs you might work with the company. I know for each and every company there are certain programs. So I'm aware of some of the internship programs in US, not 100% sure in India, but all the big companies, they, as I mentioned, they are really after a good talent, right? And good fresh talent. And again, to be very honest here, when I interact with some of these youngsters, interns, who come from the computer background, computer science background, their thought process and their imaginations and their approach to problem solving is so amazing that it is very impressive, and it takes even me, who is in the industry for so long, to kind of digest that. It takes a while to understand even the problem itself, and the young generation is able to solve those problems very quickly. So that's why I said, like, the generation has a smart brains. They are playing with computers from the very early parts of their career, and they are able to take advantage of that. So I personally know that I can't compete in the field of AI and ML with some of these youngsters. I can't compete with them, as simple as that. So that's a great opportunity. You guys are gonna effectively replace people like me going forward, and it's a fight for me to be able to keep up with your talent. So the specific programs I'm not aware, but trust me, each and every company has similar programs.
Yeah, okay.
Abhijit will take one last question because we are already crossed 8:30. One question from Somnath Pandit: which side one should choose after 10th to become an UX specialist?
So the UX specialist, again, I have seen people who come from the arts background, right? Arts in the sense, the actual art, like they went to the art school, and while learning about the art and everything, they picked up like 2 courses of computer. That was, I think that is more possible in the US education system, which is way more flexible than probably more rigid systems in India. So in US, it's possible, easily possible. But again, if you come from the arts background, if you are passionate about arts, and then you at one point decide, like, I can be the user experience, then you can enroll for some of these related courses, get some training, and then you would have the perspective which typical engineer would not have on the user experience, and that the interface and some of the intricacies of those designs. Engineers would be able to build what you say, but you should be able to kind of design those or conceptualize those things. So it doesn't matter what background you come from for those kind of roles, but my point was that it doesn't have to be the engineering background, and if you come from the other background with the right vision, you can still be an expert UX person.
Avasab, Kalpit has one question, so if we have 2 minutes, should we take that question?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Go ahead.
So when I was in my college, a lot of data analysis and machine learning was at least in the friend circle I was, it was importing py and py import and trying a random bunch of codes without really understanding the maths behind it. So is it the same in companies? Because I've heard that in a few startups where my friends are working, it's the same. I mean, you import a bunch of codes and you try until you get the right solution.
That's the one way to go, and unfortunately that is still the case because we don't have very specialized data analyst and data scientist. So if I tomorrow start being a data scientist, I would follow that process, trial and error process. But if we have more specialists involved who really understand the maths behind it, understand the model behind it, they would be able to really make a significant change. But again, because of lack of those expertise, companies like Amazon and Microsoft, they are coming up with more API based approach where you can use these services without really understanding the inner workings of those. And that could be, say, image identification, right? So you can just throw image at that API and it will be able to kind of figure out whether it's animal or what kind of scene is that, what kind of nature is that. So lots of API based stuff is there. People are able to utilize those features a lot, but those are just kind of enabling certain new features. But if you are somebody with the actual data scientist background and you are able to build your own new model based on that, that's really valuable. And that's why you see that the earlier chart that I showed, the data scientists are commanding most salaries because there are not too many data scientists, real data scientists available in the world.
Good. Thanks.
Okay, so I think Abhijit sir, there are many questions which are still unanswered, but due to the time restrictions, we will have to take a stop here and we'll have to meet for the next session. So thank you very much for addressing the whole gathering today. And thanks to all the participants for joining again. We wait for you to join again on next Sunday. Thanks to GSES, thanks to Jana Seva Samiti for supporting us in this endeavor, and hope to see you all again next weekend. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Abhijit. Thank you, Jatin, for giving great support. Thank you. Good night, and signing off from Maitraji Vache. Stay safe, stay home.